Hey everyone, and welcome to another recording of Our Human Experience, the podcast where we probe individuals to share the stories that made them who they are today.
And try to find the connection that is our human experience. And we are recording today in beautiful Govinda at the Arts Nexus podcast studio. I'm Claire Tierney.
And I'm Anna Winter.
Where can they follow us, Anna?
They can follow us on social media at Our Human Experience on Instagram and Facebook.
ourhumanexperience.com.au. We invite you
to pod binge
Our Human Experience
anytime you like.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Claire.
How's your week?
Oh, I don't like to say it, but crazy busy, but so good.
True, you're always busy.
Try to be.
So I know you are, man. But I went back to the gym. You'll be so proud of me. I went back to the gym this week. I'm going twice a week.
Yep.
And I'm doing my ice baths.
Yay for you. That's so good.
Love
I know
it.
that it makes you feel good. And
Awesome.
how humid is it at the moment?
Full on.
So that'll be good for you. Well, talk about movement. I realise with this new job I've taken on, and also the commitment I've made to work on this special project with you, that the most important thing is still maintaining good physical fitness and moving. So I have been taking it up a notch and going for some walks that are at night.
Oh, man, I know. The other night you called me at 9:30. You're normally in bed by
I
8.
know, right? I'm a morning girl. So most people that know me well know me. I can be a 4:30 girl. So for me, walking at night. But it was good. I thought, I can just fiddle with my phone and be in bed and not quite be asleep. But I just know that I need to focus on that movement. So that brings us to our next guest.
Korina Jones.
Yeah.
You know her well, don't you?
I do. She's one of the best personal trainers in our country. She's very modest, so she won't say that. But, yeah, let's get this underway.
Let's get her on.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever we are in the world.
Hello. Hi, Korina.
Hi, how are you going, girls?
We are great. We're going to try our interview a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We're rookies at this, so we're just going to change it up a little bit.
Still learning.
So welcome to Our Human Experience.
Thank you so much for coming. It's really, really powerful when people are prepared to come on and chat about life and where they are and where they've come from. So thank you so much for coming on.
So I'm sure that you've had some time to just go over sort of the direction that we want to, how will we say, we don't want to necessarily probe you, but we want to find out about you individually as the amazing woman that I know you are, and we want everyone to hear. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Take us back to 7, take us back to 6, 0 to 15, but take us back to you. Tell us a little bit about you, and let's envisage where you were and what your favorite things were to do. Just a little bit about your upbringing. Can you take us back to that place?
So I come from a family that has 2 immigrant parents, so they're both German. And it was really funny because just the other day I was going through all my parents' photos with my mum, and just looking back on their courting days. And my dad had his first bank account with my mum in Darwin. So, yeah, Darwin was where I was born. Coming from Germany, that was pretty hot. So then they moved to Mount Isa. That was a desert. And my dad had been part of Snowy River and the Barron Gorge scheme when they were being built. So he knew of Cairns. So we only spent 14 months in Mount Isa, and then we headed to Cairns. And I was devastated to leave Darwin. And when Cyclone Tracy hit, we still had our house in Darwin, and my dad did a trip back after, about 12 months, and I went with him. And I loved it so much that I hid at my auntie's place and wouldn't come out because I just wanted to stay there. I didn't want to leave Darwin. And my dad went, okay, well, we'll come and get her in 2 weeks. And I left me there. I was so happy. My Auntie Ulla, she was just, I loved her to pieces, and I was four and a half, 5, and I didn't want to leave her. So yeah, and eventually we moved to Cairns, and I got to fly to Cairns when they were looking at houses, and I drove in a mini moke to Korina, and I was like, this place is heaven. I was so excited once I got to Cairns, but yeah, Mount Isa was never kind of that exciting, and we just camped and had a really outdoorsy life. There, I have 3 siblings, 2 older ones and a younger one. Yeah. So yeah,
Karina,
I had a very good life. I was very lucky.
were you all born here in Darwin? Oh,
So my oldest sister and Lorelei and my older brother Werner, our younger brother Peter, who was a whoopsie daisy 7 years after me, was born in Cairns.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my parents, we camped with them from when we were newborn babies. So we always had an outdoor lifestyle. And when I was about 10, my dad bought a property in Innisfail, and we kind of camped there all the time instead. And he played on a tractor, and very clever with his hands, as is my husband. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us, you moved to Cairns and you settled in and made that home as a family. So tell us a little bit about yourself as a young child and what you used to get up to as children, because I mean, we're so fortunate to live in this magical place in North Queensland. And I remember you saying to me when I first moved up here, Anna, you're not lucky. You made a choice to move
Yeah.
here. And I was like, oh, she's so right.
Yeah.
So take us back to Cairns when you were a child and what you used to get up to as a family, and after school, and what floated your boat? What did you get up to?
Oh gosh, what didn't we get up to in the 70s? We actually backed onto our house backs onto the Red Arrow, the one I grew up in, which my parents still have to this day. And we used to say we were going up the road to our friend's place, because back in the 70s, you knew all the neighbourhood and played with all the kids, because that's what you did on weekends. And we'd often sneak into the bush and go exploring. And I was the youngest, and when I was young, I was quite plump, and we snuck into this cubby house that was built out the back in the bush, and everybody tiptoed through the cubby house and explored and went down the ladder on the other side. Not me. I tiptoed through, fell through, gravel rash, head to toe. Because back then you walked around in your knickers. Nobody wore clothes when they were 6 or 7, So I think I got to about 10 and my mum goes, oh, I really think it's time you start wearing clothes out in public. That was pretty free. I had head to toe gravel rash 3 times before I got to school. The cubby house, my push bike, go-karts down the hill. We did it all. It was great.
Honestly,
and we did, after school was swimming in the pool, and, we didn't sit indoors very much at all. You got out and you explored, and school holidays, you went to Green Island with your friends. And it was.
You're a Queenslander for sure, girl. North Queenslander through and through.
Absolutely. Yes, mate. Sure am.
Korina, we're similar age, and I'd have to say, although I grew up in Melbourne, my lifestyle was very similar. You said you went out the door and told your parents you'd be home for dinner. They didn't really know where you were. They didn't seem to really, not saying they didn't care, but they didn't really fret, because life was very free and easy. And you're right. I mean, although my family would never have let me out of the house with no clothes on, I do know what you're talking. I do know what you're talking about, though, because we had a sanctuary near us. We had bushland, and even though I was sort of on the perimeter of the suburbs of Melbourne, it was a very free and very liberal time.
Yeah. I remember talking to Anna on one of our walks when we'd have that North Queensland torrential rain.
Yeah.
We'd all run out with our yellow raincoats, and we'd sit in the gutter and fill our raincoats up, and then we'd let them go and bowl all the people in the gutter, And I think of sitting in the gutter today, and that is just disgusting.
Oh, no.
People loved it.
Yeah, I literally lived in the gutter and on the streets with all the neighbourhood kids, and we played only in the street.
I'm going to label that hashtag gutter kids.
Gutter kids. Well, I'm
You know,
very
it's all about the
proud.
hashtag now. I'm going
I'm-
to podcast this one as hashtag gutter kids.
Very proud of my gutter upbringing.
Me too.
Absolutely. And you know, it kind of brings us into probably a whole lot of things in our conversation, because all these things that happen, I believe, and I know Claire and I have talked at length about it, about, you know, the things that you do weirdly enough as a child, it's not weird, but sometimes as we grow into our self as a human, as a person, and you know, we revert to sort of the things that we love to do. Like, I know you mentioned camping and that direction, and you know, for me, I look at you and you know, you're such a mentor in the community of Cairns for so many people, and you're very humble, and you have helped so many people physically and mentally, and from the sounds of things, that all begun at a very young age. You were
Yeah.
you know, wearing activewear that was a little different back then. It was called underwear.
I had my bummies too. Did you know that?
It was a bit colder there.
Oh God, everybody wore bummies and a t-shirt to school in primary school, and they were
Yeah.
just basically knickers over knickers.
Yeah.
You know, and it
Puffy
didn't
knickers.
change much.
Did you have shoes on? Because most people say they didn't wear shoes to school around here. No
Oh,
shoes.
I used to hide them under the tree on the way to school. I lost so many pairs because I would hide them. My mum would put me in nice leather lace-ups. By grade 3, she gave up.
Yeah.
We just
yeah.
went barefoot. You could tap a tune on your soles of your feet because they were so, you know, hard from walking on bitumen, hot bitumen all
True.
day. Yeah.
True.
Wow, it's another
That's,
hashtag.
that's really interesting, Korina, because I did grow up in Melbourne, as I said, but when I found myself pregnant and thought about what could I offer my child, I got on the side of the road, put my thumb out and came up to Cairns because I
Right.
wanted him to have, that's gone in Melbourne now, and I wanted him to have that. And my son grew up here with no shoes on at school and just playing out and the rivers and all of that sort of stuff. So it's such a great experience and for kids, and it's still
Absolutely.
found up here, which is lovely.
I just bumped into a friend from high school that I went to primary school with, and then we did year 12 together at Cairns High. She said exactly the same thing. She
Yeah.
left Melbourne so her children could just have that safe, carefree lifestyle that we have
Yeah.
up here.
Mhm.
You know, it's a privilege.
It is a
Yeah.
privilege.
It is.
So,
Mm. And that, can I just
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm thinking you had such a lovely childhood. Your early working days were in childcare. Was there something in between school and childcare? Why did you go into that process of?
Well,
Taking that
I
on.
always wanted to be a preschool teacher. So, you know, because I'm outdoorsy, I didn't want a job that would lock me in. But when I first left school, it was the pilot strike of 88, basically. So the
onset.
nation was struggling and people couldn't get jobs. I got offered a retail traineeship in a shoe store. Funnily enough, my mum started the Shoebox, which has got quite a reputation in Cairns, in 1979 or 78, something like that, in what used to be called the Tropical Arcade, which is now the Square. So back then it was all retail downstairs and Centrelink was in the middle, and then there was car parking. And she moved that then to Lake Street, and from Lake Street into Andrew Jack's Arcade, which is now Oceanic Walk. And when I was 15, I quit because she didn't pay me enough money. I worked for Woolworths, who demanded union fees. I was like, what? And in the time between Woolworths and working for my mum, she sold the business, and the lady who bought it, I had worked with, Faye Martin, and she was like another mother to me. She was gorgeous. She offered me my job back with more money. So
Ooh.
I went into retail and back into the shoe store. And when I finished high school, basically finished school on Friday, did my Saturday job on Sunday, and started work on Monday. You know, there was no schoolies, there was no party to farewell. I'd left year 12. We said goodbye at the schoolyard, and that was it.
Yeah, no gap year, none of that
No.
self-discovery.
It was devastating. I also had very strict parents. You know, there were other kids that were going off and having parties and the like, but, you know, German father, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So then to childcare?
Yeah, so I finished that retail traineeship and I went off to Melbourne. And the day before I went off to Melbourne, I met my future husband, which I didn't know.
Mhm.
And then I went to Melbourne for 3 or 4 months and ran out of money, as you do.
Yeah.
And I came back home and I was working at a place called the House of 10,000 Shells. So it was a retail tourist shop that had a phenomenal amount of beautiful coral and shells and
Wow.
touristy stuff, which you just don't get today. This store was, gosh, triple the size of your average retail store today, and it was full of stuff from the reef. Hard to believe. But anyway, I lasted 3 months there and I went for a job interview at a place on Laurelton Drive, which was then called Top Stop. And yeah, I did my associate diploma, paid my way through TAFE, and did that right up until our first child, Holly, who we had in 1999. So, yeah.
Talk us through that. You were a daycare teacher, then you were a young mum.
Yeah, well, I knew how tough it was keeping a level head with other people's children. So I knew if I came home to my own child, I think it would be unfair because you're really nice and kind and doing all the right thing with everyone else's children. And I knew I wouldn't have the capacity to then carry that home. And I didn't want to work full time caring for other people's children and have to put my child into care. And as loving as all of us are in childcare, it's no replacement for motherhood. So I think Holly was 9 months old before I started working again. And I remember just sitting on the bed with her and kissing her to death because I was just so in love with her. And Colin would walk by, my husband, who was then my partner, and he would just go, "Oh, my God, do you ever stop that?" And I said, "It's just bursting out of me. I'm just so in love with this child." You know, I didn't give birth and go, "How amazing is this?" I felt this real detachment, but the love that grew was just something I'd never experienced before. Yeah, and I used to just love kissing her.
Korina, can I tap into that? Because I find that really interesting. A lot of women won't say they didn't instantly fall in love with their child, or they looked down and thought, "Oh my God, it's an angel," or whatever. And I think that can be overwhelming for new mothers, young mothers, to think, "Damn, what's wrong with me? I don't feel this instant." But it's beautiful that you formulated that attachment over time. So could you just tap in a little bit more to that and how that grew? And did you have that same experience with your second child? You have two, yeah?
Yes, I have two, a son as well. Well, we have two,
Yeah.
a son as well. And yeah, it was so shocking because you watch so much on TV where, you know, they have this traumatic birth and everybody bursts out crying and there's this immense love and happiness. And I had wanted a child so badly, and it took me so long to convince Colin, you know, I wanted to be 22, married, 4 children by the time I was 30. You know, none of that happened. Shame we forget to mention this to our men.
Yeah.
But I was 28, nearly 10 days off 29 when we had Holly, and the whole experience was traumatic. Even the falling pregnant, I was so ecstatic but terrified at the same time, whereas Colin was just ecstatic. He didn't have that, "Oh my God, I've got to push this child out," and then you get the sleepless nights and heartburn. But I did everything I could do to make her the healthiest child. I gave up drinking, I gave up smoking, I took up yoga, I meditated, I didn't eat any takeaway. I was absolutely obsessive. And then I didn't have this perfect birth that I thought I was going to have. I'd watched a Caesar on telly and I was like, "Oh, God, I'm not going to do that. That's just horrendous." And next minute I was, doing 12 hours of labour, into fetal distress, off to a Caesar, and everything I hadn't expected. And back when I had Holly, because I had laboured so long, I kind of just fell asleep. You know, you come out of the room, they warm you up, and then you go into your room and they say, you need rest, the baby's sleeping. So I went to sleep. Well, I woke up at 10 o'clock the next morning. I was like, my baby, where's my baby gone? You know, and I'm buzzing, nurse, can I have my baby? And they're like, no, she's still sleeping. I'm like, but it's my baby and I want her. You know, it was this whole, I hadn't held her since the night before. It was really strange. And I will say I was very comfortable in the 8 bedrooms, which they don't have anymore. There was that sense of other people on this same terrifying journey that I was on. You know, I could sit back and watch the other mums with their children and the people coming and going. And Lana knows me, I'm so social, it's ridiculous. So for me, 8 people in a room, that's heaven. You know, everyone else is like, I want silence. I'm like, no, I need action. So, and then I finally got Holly and I was like looking at her just going, wow, it's a baby. And I looked at her like I looked at every other child that I'd looked after in childcare. There was no, wow, this is a miracle. It's part Colin, part me. And I'm like, gosh, does the name even suit her? You know, we're not good at coming up with names for things. And I was like, gee, I hope she grows into the name we've chosen and likes it, you know. And I think I got home and I wanted to go back.
Yeah.
She just cried. Colin goes, I don't think they'll let you back in again. So, yeah. And I think when I started breastfeeding, that was when I was in awe. Yeah, that I was able to feed this child and I was nurturing her, and they put their little hand on your breast and take ownership. And yeah. I think every mother who gets that one experience, and not everybody does.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting you say that, because having the pleasure of doing physical exercise with you and socializing with you at different times and getting to understand you, walking out 25-kilometer walks and whatnot we were doing.
How we talked for that long, I've got no idea. That's hours.
And we did talk for that long. It was a long time. But you are such a touch and feel person. You're a very affectionate person. So with you saying that, I kind of understand that, because that was a physical connection for you. And, you know, we live in a society that is so disconnected from touch now with, you know, technology and whatnot. And I'm sure that has been a big thing for you. I just banged the microphone. That's a rookie move. I'm sure that, that you would struggle with that in some ways. Like, once you had that actual connection with her physically, not just with, you know, with touch, that's obviously you worked that out. I was like, well, that's when you started your bonding.
And that's a light bulb moment. Thank you, Anna. I didn't realise that was the thing until you noticed what I said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So within this sort of conversation that, you know, it's interesting. We have a format and, you know, we always go off into other areas, and that's kind of cool because we've just, you know, every conversation with everyone is individually different. So we have questions in front of us, but it's kind of like Claire and I and Melissa, our producer, were just talking about it before, and like, we're just kind of got to go with it because
go with what we've got in front of us.
Yeah, we kind of, we all love to find out the things that make you tick, and within saying that, you know, you've chosen directions in your life from certain life experiences. And, you know, talk us a little bit about, you know, you and the direction you're in now, but sort of from motherhood, growing out of that childcare into the next phase of your life as you. Where did you go from there?
So we bought a business. So once we had Holly, we were very, very, very broke. My husband went into blacksmithing. So, we did markets and things and would take Holly along to the markets. And, we just couldn't keep living that lifestyle and surviving because we were making so little money, although what Colin did was super amazing stuff. Then we moved to Korina and got back into retail. And that was really stressful. And that was probably the first 5 or 6 years of Holly and Kel's life up there. And I put on a lot of weight with our second child. So it was funny because I was in the shop with Kerry Fitzian, Baz
We
Kerry
love
Fitz.
Carrie.
Yeah, so we were in the shop together with her then husband Colin, and we'd ordered new uniforms. We had a business called Foodworks, and Kerry and I both ordered these uniforms in a size 12, and we couldn't do them up. And we're like, what's going on here? These must be really small uniforms. They're a size 12. I'm not going to admit I'm more than that. And we had to buy a size 14. And we were like, God, are things shrinking? It was never we got bigger. Are things shrinking? They've got tiny waists on these pants, Anyway, it was then that I put Kel into community kindergarten, which Holly had been to. And I was standing there unloading his lunchbox one day, and I heard another mother going, yeah, I'm going to be opening a gym at top of the range. And, yeah, we're just setting up. It's probably another 4 or 5 weeks before we open. And I just walked over because I'm not shy, as you know. I went, did you say you're opening a gym? And she went, yeah. I said, can I be one of your clients? I said, I'm desperate to get back to the gym. I've had kids and I think I'm a size 14. She just laughed at me. And from there, I started doing personal training. So it was a really unique gym. So it was in her backyard, in the rainforest, and you would pay for 3 sessions, 3 1-hour sessions a week, and it would be $20 for the 3, or was it $20 per session? I can't remember. But anyway, you had the gym for an hour and 15 minutes. You could do 5-minute warm-up, do your 1-hour workout, and then a 15-minute cool down before the next 2 clients would. So she would never have more than 2 or 3 people in the gym. It was the most beautiful setting. And she is the most gorgeous woman who I'm still very good friends with. And then I progressed into personal training with her, and she got me onto a nutrition plan, and I lost all that fat from the babies and got down to a size where I felt good again, because it's shocking having kids. We've had this same body our whole lives, and then suddenly things are never the same. Colin had been blacksmithing for the first time in his life. Well, he was lean anyway. He had a 6-pack and huge muscles from throwing this hammer. And here I was, with stretch marks and stretch belly and boobs that weren't the same. And it was a lot to come to grips with. And I physically found it hard to be comfortable having sex because I wasn't comfortable with this new body I had. And going to see Jo, she just wrapped me in her arms. Like, the journey with a personal trainer is like nothing you'll ever experience. It's almost like, I don't know, finding a new best friend or something, Sometimes I'd be training and I'd just burst out crying, and I'd be like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I'm in tears again. And she'd go, it's normal. When you're changing your body and you're changing your life, it's really normal to have these moments where you just feel like you're not in control of things. And I guess that's what it gave me, is that little bit more control over myself and my self-worth, through hard work. As you know, Anna, it's hard work.
I know, and it kind of takes us to the next part of you, and I love how you flow, because that's why I believe, and I want the world to know, sometimes people in these, I call Cairns a country town, it's a country city, but can have the most incredible people living everyday lives that are so gifted in what they do. And you have trained people of all walks of life, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that, because you've got an incredible story, so that's the next phase, when you were being trained and then you turned into the trainer.
Yeah. Well, we sold the shop, and I was saying to Colin, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go back into retail. I don't want to be stuck in a shopping centre all day, working Sundays. We have children. I want to have time with them. And I would talk to Jo at length about it in my PT sessions. And then she just turned around one day and she said, why don't you become a PT? And I'm like, what? She said, become a PT, you'd be great at it. I said, what makes you think that? She goes, you're good at listening and you've had a journey yourself. And it's true. When you've had a journey, along with that journey comes a lot of empathy and understanding and learning on how to allow forgiveness to yourself, and I think the hardest thing is we carry around all this baggage of expectations of what people think we should be like or how we should behave, and that people judge so quickly. And behind every journey that I've been on as a personal trainer, there's been a story. And I've said to Anna many a times, I've been in tears with the stories I've heard and the pain I've heard. And you can hear my voice now getting shaky because it just rocks me to the core that people live with so much pain. And to be able to, sorry, Claire?
No, I was just going to say, Korina, that path you're on now and tapping into your own personal experience and others' personal stories is exactly what you're saying, so empowering and absolutely what makes you so brilliant at what you do. And I'm really appreciative that you are being so open and honest about the facade that we put up to the community and the expectations of not just people after pregnancy, but women as we age, because you've been there and you've seen the difference in your body, and on the outside we're all tucked in with whatever they're called, those pants
Lycra does amazing
up
things.
on bras and things like that, but there's that intimate time with your partner that has, like you, seen you go through your aging, and yet we're still so critical of what we appear like. And I'm 54, but my body is not like a 21-year-old. But tell us a little bit. I don't obviously expect you to share the stories, but is that the experience that you see a common thread of, that people are just trying to manage what is natural, that we age?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's often where it's hard, where you get a younger personal trainer or a personal trainer of the opposite sex, and it's not their fault. But as a woman, you're already intimidated with this body you have. And then what you're basically doing is exposing your inner self when you go to a personal trainer. And I think people don't realise how personal. And I've always said, if you want to be a good personal trainer, you need to get personal. So if you think you can just train somebody, see them on a Monday, how was your weekend, see you later, that person will never have the benefit of a full journey. They need to know that you're there and they can trust you and that they can tell you their story. And it's amazing. And the amount of times I've met a new client and we've filled out the patient form and we've had a chat and I've spent an hour and a half and gone, oh my goodness, where has time gone? And then they have just hugged me and I've been so surprised, and they've said thank you. There is so much in listening and sharing an experience and not giving them answers, but saying, let's make some steps in the right direction. And I know, I'm constantly shocked because, as Anna said, I'm very tactile. I'm quick to touch and feel, and I'm very quick to rest a hand on a knee or touch a shoulder or hold a hand when I feel somebody needs it. But when it's reciprocated, I don't know, for some reason I'm really surprised.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, because I think everything that you've said then goes back to the fact that everyone needs support and love. And it's kind of like in different forms though. But that's, for me, understanding good quality PTs like yourself, it is personal, it's not a a format that's one fit all for everyone, because we're all individually different. And I mean, I know of a wide range of people that you've trained, and one person that stands out, and I hope you don't mind me saying, we can cut this out if you want, but you know, another champion of North Queensland, or actually of Australia, is Scooter.
Yeah.
I mean, you've
No,
known
he wouldn't
Scoo.
mind.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think so. He's a pretty cool dude. But I mean, what an exceptional human he is, and hopefully we can have him come along and have a chat with us
He
some
would love
stage.
it.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
would love it.
Yeah. So just, I mean, people that are listening, that, you know, obviously can Google him, but tell us a little bit about, obviously, certain things you wouldn't be able to say, but he has the most incredible story, and he's now an Australian champion in his
Yeah.
sport.
Oh, look, his story's very out there and very public.
Yeah.
But Scooter is what you see. He is the most down to earth, most kind, giving, driven person that I have ever met. It's not the personal trainer going, come on, Scoot, let's get onto this. It's like, where are you? I want to do more. Let's get this going. Let's pick it up. And like all of us, he has his own fears, you know, and they're not like in the gym, so to speak, in the gym training. So, you know, he finds an exercise and he loves it. It's like this push and shove to get him to change. And it's really funny because when the other trainers are in the gym, they're just laughing at us because we're bickering like an old married couple. I'm like, you've got to do this. He's like, nah, Corinne, nah, I don't want to give this exercise. Scotty, you've got to change. You know? But once I can explain to him the reason for change and justify it, he respects me enough to go, okay, we'll do that then. But, you know, it was such a long journey. Like when he first came to me, I was like, okay, where do I begin? You know, he's as he said, he's his mother's 1 in a million miracle. Like that's the chance of having a child like Scooter, 1 in a million. And he looks at himself as a miracle, and he is.
That's
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
his mum is the most amazing person as well. And they have raised him to believe he can do anything he wants to do. And they have to have a strong mind and a strong will. And he will do what he wants to do, and he will find the right people that can take him to where he wants to go. And it's really bizarre because we go back to the childcare days, and Scooter was kind of at one of the daycares I worked at, but he was off to the side because he had his own carer. So back in the day, you'd have your little group, and then there'd be these carers that would come in on certain days, and children with disabilities would have those carers. And Scooter always had his little mate Colin. So Colin would be in the go-kart and Scooter would be on his little trike. I don't know if he had his trike back then. I can't quite remember. But I remember looking at Scooter, and he was the happiest kid in that playground. He smiled more, he laughed more, he tried everything. He was so gorgeous, this tiny little kid with his big eyes, just a beautiful natured child. And I looked at him and I thought, I hope nobody beats that out of him as an adult, and they didn't.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful,
You know,
Korina. So for me and for the other listeners, and I'm reasonably sure that Scooter's disabilities are quite profound, and you've known him for a long time. But I do want to re-tap into the fact that, and I love the play, that it is a personal journey. It is personal training. You've got to get personal, and that is the brilliance of what you can bring out of these people. My understanding of that whole carer and the disability thing has come late in my life. I wasn't born with a disability, but I am classified disabled now with multiple sclerosis. Having a personal carer, it's interesting how the system has that line that they want you to keep, and yet when you work on the ground, you have to be personal. So,
yes.
you know, you can't say my carers are handpicked, because they are personal with me. And we do get emotionally attached. But just can you tap into that? Because as a personal trainer, getting personal and touching, and there's all those legal ramifications. So it's really, really
Oh, yes,
interesting.
I know. And when I got into the swim group, like the kids, and I said to Herbie, look, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't touch inappropriately by any means. But if I want a muscle to switch on, I'm going to poke it and they're going to know about it. So just warn the kids that if I touch them, there's nothing involved and we're public. I will poke a muscle. I will point to one. I will touch a shoulder, touch a knee. It's me. I said, I can't do it any other way. If you're not comfortable with that, I understand. And he's like, no, that's fine. I don't think I've had any trouble with that. And Scooter laughs because when we first started, so getting around the fact that he can't grip anything, you can imagine in a gym, everything's gripped.
Yeah.
Dumbbells are gripped, bars are gripped, handles are gripped. You know, you use your flat hands to push a barbell up. You use your flat hands to do a push-up.
Yeah.
You can't do any of that. So, you know, we had to buy straps. And to begin with, we did a lot of band work just to build him up. Like the progression that he's done is phenomenal. Like we were using bands and, you know, the big stretchy bands, and he was running and we were trying balance. And then we bought little straps, double-ended straps. They have loops at both ends and they're flat. And we loop it through the dumbbell, and then he puts his little hands through the loops, and that's how he moves things. You know, even when we were doing chin-ups, we'd put those loops up and I'd sit on a box and he'd climb from his bike onto a lower box, onto the higher box, onto my back, and he'd be sweaty. And I'd stand up and he'd go, don't fall, Corinne, don't fall. I'm like, I've got your Scooter. And he'd climb up and then he'd be up there and he'd be doing his chin-ups, and we would just be laughing. And the amount of videos that we've taken, and that's the other miracle about Scooter is I say to him sometimes, I said, do you ever get down about the way people treat you? And he goes, no. He goes, I was really angry in my teen years, but I learnt very quickly I could have an angry life or I could have a happy life. He goes, I'm not offended by anything. I said, what if somebody taps you on the head and calls you a little man or midget or something? He goes, no. He goes, other people you have to be careful with. He said, but me, nothing. He said, I want to be happy. I want to have a good life. And that's exactly what he's done. Yeah.
That's just
wow.
beautiful.
And I suppose we've just been chatting about Scooter like he's all of our best friend, which he's probably one of your best friends. But for
everyone feels like that.
I know. We all talk about him like, you know, he's ours. Like we own him, and, you know, because he's just so, there's just something special. And the first time I actually met Scooter was at the meeting place on a Sunday that all your regular friends meet at the what's the boat shed.
Oh,
and he came scootering, and I was with all your friends there, and he came flying around the corner. I'm like, who is this dude? And he was just so friendly. And then I didn't realize he's an athlete. But could you sort of explain, because, you know, people are going, who's this Scooter? Like, what? Can you just sort of give us a bit of a visual, like for someone that doesn't know, or do you know, like, you know, his diagnosis? But tell me a bit about that sort of.
So he has a really rare form of dwarfism, and he probably comes up to my hip. So he jokes that, you know, he's at everybody's butt height. He goes, you think you got a tough? You should sit down here and see everyone's butts all the time. He's got a wicked sense of humour, absolutely wicked sense of humour, which Australia discovered at the last Olympics. Our secret is out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, and his little hands are kind of stuck out like this, so he can only grip things like that, and they're small. His arms are probably the length of one of our forearms, so that's from shoulder to wrist, and he has the torso the same size and the head, and his legs are smaller as well. And we have studied his body to no end, and it's just a miracle how he can move it. Most people who have his form of dwarfism have had their back fused and their ankles fused. But Scooter's mum defied the times when people were doing that and said no. And if Scooter wasn't swimming and wasn't moving and wasn't exercising, he wouldn't be moved. He would be in a wheelchair. He wouldn't be who he is today. So swimming has kept him mobile, and the gym added to that mobility, added the strength side of things. So he was always doing really well in the swimming, but he needed that edge, and that's when he came into the gym. So, even standing up straight is something Scooter can't do because he is so top heavy. He's always leaning forward. So a flight of steps is very difficult because his legs don't have that flick motion or that lift motion that we have. They're quite locked. And he's done some miraculous things. He's carried his bike up the Red Arrow. Herbie's got some amazing videos of Scooter, and he's got four-wheelers, jet skis, boats, cars, all the toys you can imagine. He's like any, 30-year-old with his toys sort of thing, and he loves them, and he goes hell for leather with everything he does. But he has learnt to work around things and make things work for him.
Korina,
if it's not working, he'll find a way.
Korina, I just we could talk about Scooter all day. Believe me, we've got to get him in here. Amazing person, huge personality. But what I wanted to tap into in that whole string of where you started with that, and that aspect of choice. As a sufferer, or if you don't like that label to be put on you, you have to make really firm choices about how you want to live, how you want to be seen, and what you want to achieve. And sometimes people afflicted with a disability make what are perceived as enormous choices to make their life, not so much productive, but enjoyable.
Better.
It's or not always required to have a disability, but everybody really has to make a choice. So even with your other clients, some of whom would be overweight, or some of whom, for whatever plethora of things they come to you for, it is that moment where you've got to make a choice to get up, to get to the gym, to call you. So can you tap into how you see that in your clients?
Yeah, well, that's one of the first things I say when I'm, doing that introduction. I'm not sure how you went through the process, Anna, but we have our little tick sheet. You get their name and their address, and you're supposed to find out the things on that list. Well, I always deviated from that list because I don't think you get to know the person unless you do. So for me, it was always a conversation with a friend. That's how I would look at it. And I would always tell them how brave they are for coming in and making that first choice just to step in the door. So even if you don't come back, just stepping in the door and opening up about what you're experiencing is brave. If you come back, that's amazing. You're going to have a wonderful journey. But just stepping in the door is brave. Gyms are extremely intimidating. And that's why I think when Sonia and I set up Cairns Personal Trainers, we did it in a small environment with no mirrors so that people felt comfortable. It wasn't a big gym full of people and muscle-bound bodybuilders or footballers or any of the above. It was, as we say, real people, with real lives, having real experiences. And it just happened that because of our life experiences, we attracted a lot of women. We did have men as well, but a lot of women. And it helped that we had our own experiences to be able to then help them. And I think anyone who's suffered any sort of pain, whether it's a loss or change or fear of some sort, you need to find that community that understands you and wants you to be part of it. So it was never ever a gym. It was never ever a personal training studio. It was a community. It was a community of people that could come together and enjoy each other, and we would encourage each other, like, okay, I would do a spin class on a Friday morning, and I'd say to all the girls, well, why don't we go for a ride? And I had one client that would say to me, how do you get the line between trainer and friend? I said, well, anything that's done outside of my gym, you're my friend. I'm not being paid. I'm enjoying what you're enjoying, and we're getting out and doing things. So it's not necessarily going out to lunch or to a bar to have a drink. It's encouraging them to love the things that I love and do the things like the walking, Anna, the
Yeah.
60 days. How
Yeah.
awesome was that?
I know,
could have,
right?
I could have walked
Keep
that
working.
every week.
Absolutely. I miss it.
Yeah, me too. And the conversations.
Yeah,
I
'cause
can't believe we would talk for 5 or 6 hours,
I
and
know
Anna
we
and I
did.
don't come up for air.
I agree. And I mean, all those endorphins are pumping while you're walking too. So
Absolutely.
I
You
just
feel so
I just think you're the essence of the word personal trainer. I mean, you've said it, it's just like in this world we live in now, there's baristas, there's personal trainers, there's things that have come, industries that have formulated, nail technicians, pedis, all these things out there, we're getting our fixes from here, there, and everywhere. But, it's your quality personal trainer, like, because, I think I will just go back to my own journey and, and helping others with their journeys. And it's just like about just being honest and supportive and real. Like, um, people have faiths and people have all sorts of things, but in this day and age, people go to personal trainers for everything, not just physical, but mental. And I mean, for you, how did you manage, like, had so many people, I suppose, all that on you? I can actually feel that, that like people were telling you stories, sharing deep, deep, deep personal thoughts, and like you said, I don't know why I'm crying, because you're really uncomfortable, you're going into an uncomfort zone. Tell us how that changed you as who you are. So many people telling you about themselves and what they're going through. How did you cope?
I guess because when I was being personal trained, I was being listened to. So for me, it was, like I've always said, a privilege to be able to be part of that story and that journey. And I know I'm not a counsellor, I can't give them the answers, but I can give them the comfort of listening and knowing, and as you know, Anna, I get emotionally involved because I can't help it. That's me. I will cry with them. I will laugh with them. It's how I am. And for me, it's always just been a privilege. So, but it's funny because from that beginning, those that you connect with, they stay. There'll be people that I have trained that have gone, that I didn't make that connection with, and others that made that choice not to come back. But I always said to Sonia, I can't believe that we have had these people in our lives for 12 years. Like, most of them came and stayed. And when we sold the business, the number one thing is they went, our community's gone, without realizing I had, and it was a fault, but it was an advantage. I included everybody. If I was doing something, it went out to everybody. And, some people are going, can it just be us sometimes? I'm like, yeah, but such and such asked, and I really like them, and I want to include everyone, So it was this phenomenal little community. And I must say, when I gave up PT, it broke me. Yeah, losing that community. Yeah.
You still got one though. You've still
Yeah,
got one there. They're called your
Yeah.
fans too.
Yeah.
I do.
Corinne, what now then?
So at the moment, I'm a medical receptionist, and I must say that in itself was a saving grace because I didn't know if I could be anything other than a personal trainer. And when you sell a business, you can't really kind of stay there, and then you can't go into competition. So I was like, what do I do? I did start studying travel, so I was going to be a travel agent and get a Facebook kind of a business going where I put together adventure holidays, and it was called Adventurous Hearts Travel. I got an email, I got a name, I got a logo, everything, and COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, and I went for my job interview as a medical receptionist, and big thank you to Peter from Lorna Jane, because she was my foot into the door. It's that old small community thing. It's
Yeah.
not what you know, it's who you know. And
Mhm.
I bumped into Peter shopping, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing there? You've sold the gym." And I said, "Oh, not a lot. COVID's hit, and I've got kids at uni and bills." And she said, "Oh, we're looking for staff. Come in for an interview." And I'm like, I haven't had an interview since I was 26, 27. I was like, oh my God. So I was like, what do I wear? I was talking to my husband, so I put on a nice dress. And when I had the interview, I said to the practice manager, Yoli, I said, I'm going to be honest. I've been self-employed for like 20 years. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to act. I said, I don't answer the phone at work. I text people. I said, but I'm good with people and I like being part of a team. She goes, great. And then they gave me the job. And it was so funny because I'd be on the phone. I go, good morning, FNQHC. Yes, instead of you're speaking to Korina. And she's like, slow down. In the background, slow down. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to answer the phone. But she was so patient, and now I can do all the things I need to do. And it's and I still get to do my personal training because I still have 3 athletes that I train and their coach. That in itself is a privilege, and to have gone on the journey with Scooter to get his silver and his bronze, and we have another swimmer at the pool. I'm pretty sure his journey's public as well, and he's just been accepted into the Olympic development squad. So that's very exciting. So Herbie's just an amazing coach who knows how to draw these people in and bring the best out in them. And then another little CP boy who's very good at athletics. So, I'm still getting my little bit of PT and my fix, but I'm also itching to change and move and travel. And
I want to attend your first adventure.
Yeah.
Your first adventure. And can you just say the name of your adventure company that prior to COVID hitting, which, life will get back to some normality. And I'm not sure if you're going to, well, I'm just actually saying you need to do that. That's kind of wasn't a question. It was it was a statement. But
you've got your first 2 clients.
Yeah, we're booking. We want you back on to tell us all about it because borders are about to open, babes.
That's true.
So tell me a little bit about that, because that's kind of how we love to finish up. Because that's your passion point. You were camping when you were 5 with the family, and you were adventuring. And like I said at the beginning, sometimes we revert back to what we did as a child. So
Absolutely.
So tell us about that vision, because I've got a little bit of an insight into it once from you, but I'd love you to share it with everyone.
So what I was hoping to start Adventurous Hearts Travel. So it's people who just love to do adventure. And I'm not looking at the extreme. I'm not looking at people who want to do a 100K run or some monster walk of some sort. I just want to go on holidays with people who love to have fun and do different things. So mountain biking and hiking and swimming and camping and getting back to nature. And one of the holidays, so all of them were kind of, I was thinking overseas and, finishing at really nice resorts because I wanted to do the Camino and all that sort of thing. And then I thought, you know what, Australia has the most beautiful outback, which Colin and I are only just starting to discover. We've ordered our rooftop tent.
Yeah.
It's went nuts. They're like, why do you want to be in a roof and you're going to climb down and go to the toilet at night? I'm up in the sky. I can see around. I can see the stars. I can see the animals below. The mozzies are away. It's just heaven to me. So I will probably journey in a direction. And Colin keeps tapping into it as well. He loves that adventure and those group things. And we have a few ideas of what we want to do next year. We're going to do some adventures for the next year or 2 and then develop from there.
Great.
So
you're actually out doing a bit of market intel, I'm thinking, a bit of market intel on location settings for the new adventure for Colin and yourself together.
Absolutely. The kids are growing up. They're living in the Gold Coast and soon to be Brisbane because Kel's about to graduate in December from uni. and they're living their lives and they're happy doing the things that they want to do. I'm very proud that we've raised strong, independent children who are finding their path in life as
Awesome.
they see it, not as we think they should do it, which is pretty exciting. So Colin and I are kind of starting to consolidate our life and get things together so we can get out there and do the adventures. And I'm watching endless amounts of YouTube and what people are doing and just wondering what path we will take with that.
Fantastic.
Well, I hope that you can share that all with us one day soon, and we can maybe potentially come along in all walks of life, because I know your skill set is to help people of all abilities. And I just want to say thank you so much for giving up some
Thanks,
time
Korina.
today. And North Queensland has been so lucky to have you part of the community and looking after their physical and wellness health. So we praise you. So thank you. How refreshing.
What an amazing woman.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I just immediately think how important physical touch is,
So true.
how support emotionally as well as physically is important to change your life. If you need to, get assistance with your fitness or a medical condition or something you're born with. And it just showed, just by everything she said today, that being personal and listening is so important in many journeys.
Yeah, for me, that was it. The listening is really important. Like, you can be a good personal trainer, but to be that personal and to be comfortable with, as she said, touching, but appropriately, just even a slight touch on the arm and receiving a hug from one of your clients, because it's them expressing their personal journey as well. I think it was really beautiful.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing too is that I think because she's trained so many diverse, people with disabilities. I mean, what is a disability? That's the question we all ask.
That's a whole nother
I know. That, we all have, I wouldn't say, we all have in a sense a disability. Like, I'm dyslexic, but
in my world, it's often called ably challenged. So you are still able.
Yeah.
Mind, body, soul, all of those things coming together, but there is a challenge.
Yeah.
And we've all got them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it just resonated with me, the importance of connecting to the right people and asking for help. I mean, if you are out there listening and you need help, you feel so uncomfortable in your body. There's so many things that could be going on in everyone individually, but I suppose for me, what came from that is that there are so many amazing people across our country that can help, and it's just asking for it and taking that step. And that's one thing, going to a gym is a big step for a lot of people, or asking for help just in general. So
I really like the fact that their first gym didn't have any wind mirrors.
Yeah.
Because when I go to the gym, I know exactly what she was talking about.
Yeah, same. And I found that too with my experience of losing weight. I found the mirrors really intimidating, and and for me it was just, and then all of a sudden I started using the mirrors actually to look at different muscles in my body moving, and using the mirrors for technique.
Sure.
So but I had to get to that.
Yep.
So at the start, I found them really difficult. So for them to have something unique like that and openly saying, that they set it up as a kind of boutique-y, not boutique, but just more of a one-on-one personal experience. And we go back to that personal word again, because, she brings personal into personal training for sure.
Yeah. We could talk all day. She was an incredible person who brought so much to the table, but I think it's time to say goodbye to our listeners.
Thank you for listening to Our Human Experience. You can follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook.
ourhumanexperience.com.au.
Listen to Our Human Experience, where you can pod binge anytime you like. See you next time.
Bye.